All right, welcome to another episode of The Brown Perspective. This is your host, R.O., and I'm here with my co-host, Eduardo. ¿Cómo estamos hoy?
Buenas, estamos bien aquí activados. Tomé un descansito la semana pasada, así que I'm feeling good, ready to tackle everything we have going on. Uh, and I think yesterday was a special day because it was August 8th, so the 8th month, the 8th day. And I think there was something about the Lion's Gate opening up. And
What?
I think for those of you who follow astrology, apparently it was an important event, and I'm forgetting. I think it was the sun aligning with some other elements, but then also eight is very. I think in terms of numbers is very important just because the representation of infinity.
This is it? 8 day, 8 month, 88 year view? No,
No, no, I think it was something Lionsgate.
Lionsgate? Only
Yeah.
you. Of all the other friends that I have, you would be the one that would know about that.
Didn't we
Every
just say something about? Didn't we have a whole episode on Walter Mercado?
Yeah, but didn't we also agree that we felt differently about him?
No, it's Lionsgate, not Lions King.
Oh, sorry. I auto
I see where
completed.
your mind is.
No, I
By the
just
way, that new Disney movie, the new version of the Disney movie was pretty awesome.
the autocomplete did it, and I didn't pay attention. August 8th, every year on and around the eighth day of the eighth month of the year, August 8th, there's a cosmic alignment called the Lion's Gateway. The Lion's Gate is a time of increased cosmic energy flowing between the physical and spiritual realms. Nice. Did you catch any of that additional energy flowing through you?
Why you reading it like you read it? Why you reading it like you're laughing?
I'm
Um,
not. No,
well, actually, I shouldn't take all the credit because it was one of my cuñadas who sent a text to my wife, so that's how I learned about it. But I figure I share it with you since you appreciate the little tidbits of knowledge. I don't know. I think yesterday was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. It was a good day. Barcelona won, so that's an improvement.
oh, nice.
So that felt good. But no, I don't know. I don't. I guess maybe slightly, maybe a little more energy focused on reflecting and trying to figure out um, what the next few months, what changes I need to bring to my life to be in a more positive space, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess maybe this is one of the reasons the solar eclipse, the new moons. I think we've talked about this before, but I know there's a whole new moon ceremony
Mm-hmm.
that I've been to, and it's all about setting your intention and about letting go of things that don't serve you anymore, and sort of setting your intention and what you wish for the next month. So I think there's some truth. Well, there's some power to it, right? It's kind of setting your goals, selling your intentions. So whether it's a self what is it? What's the term?
Self actualization or self
No,
fulfillment?
I think it's self-actualization, but also, if you say, "Oh, I'm gonna do this," so I think that there is power in that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so one of those things that I think maybe perhaps a number of our listeners were attuned to this week.
Well, I bet you if anyone wanted to get into this, you could find a group, mini groups, right? Online and maybe even within your neighborhood of like minded people that would be into this. And I would venture to say that within those groups, you'd actually find people that said, oh, yeah, I do meditation throughout the year and I try to stay in tune with the cosmic energy of the universe. And on this day, I especially felt it, right?
Yeah.
There's people that will tell you that they did feel a huge difference. And look, of all of the different theories that we've come up with to explain some type of meaning or give some meaning to this world, the one where everything is energy and we're somehow connected through this, to me, it's totally plausible to believe in the idea that we're somehow all connected because everything is energy. So it's like, so
Hmm.
this to me is something that I could actually see myself getting interested in and reading more about. So I'm not being a cynic here or or just mocking it. So
That's an interesting point, and I'm glad to hear your openness, your open mind on that. And yeah, I know, at least in mainstream society, there's the Mercury retrograde. When there's a retrograde on some parts, I think that there's a lot of people who start blaming it on the retrograde. But yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point that we are all of all of us. Everything's energy, right? Everything has an energy, and if you think about how the universe started from energy. So I do like the fact that there is that connection and that it does have an influence on us.
or even
And
the days when there's full moons, we know that it has a noticeable effect in societies, right? Even I think they've even linked it to crime. When there's full moons, there's like spikes. I don't know if that's been. I know I've heard that somewhere. I don't know
maybe
if
because you can see better. Well,
right. It could
but
be. It could just be that it's actually some other factor, so it's not completely linked. But look, I'm willing to entertain this that there is again some link with the energy and the alignment because I don't know why sometimes I wake up in a better mood than other days. I mean,
hmm
we're on a spectrum, right? And it goes up and down. And unfortunately, for some people, that spectrum could be from depression all the way to mania if you're a manic depressive. But I think most people are within a specific range that we would consider like a normal range. But even within that range, there's a lot of variability. So I don't know what causes that. Is it just that I got a better night's sleep the night before, or is that other things? Maybe I woke up in a better mood yesterday, and I didn't even realize why. And maybe it has something to do with that. So again, not dismissing it outright, but again, I this is just something that it would be interesting to for me to I would actually see myself reading books on this to try to
hmm
get other people's perspective, other people that have dedicated decades to studying this to see what theories they present. So because it would be interesting.
yeah, and I think when you think of so many uh, ancient societies like the Maya, the Aztecs, the Inca, the Egyptians, like that strong connection with the cosmos and understanding the cosmos. Um, I think obviously we don't get to do it as much in modern society because we are so busy and we probably don't spend that much time stargazing. But I do think that when you realize that humans for probably 10 thousands of years got to see the skies, the stars, and understand and see patterns and study all of that. I think there's something that connects us to what's going up in that in that expanse of the universe.
Well, I haven't shared this with you before, and
Uh oh.
not sure why it hasn't come up. But well, I have a coworker, and we have on Fridays we usually talk about work when we're talking, but usually on
Mm-hmm.
Fridays we'll reserve that day for talking about things that are not work related.
Mm.
And it for some reason the conversations naturally just gravitated towards conspiracy theories. So for the last few weeks we've been talking about UFOs and the possibility, just trying to look at the evidence, trying to see what's out there, and just asking questions about it and just trying to make sense of it. Not saying I think he believes it. He's one of those that is convinced that UFOs exist, but I'm more about I don't know. I can't say either way, but let's look at the evidence and then maybe I'll have some questions and we can have a thoughtful discussion on it. So all this conversation just it reminded me of that, and maybe at some point I'd like to get your take on that. Maybe we could have an episode that we devote to talking about UFOs. I think that would be interesting.
Oh yes, that would be interesting because as a matter of fact, I think there were some new images that were released during the quarantine about the government released some images about unidentified flying objects. So I think that we have a little bit more material
Yeah,
to talk about, but I know we can
yeah.
focus on the more mundane things that are happening here around COVID-19.
And this is what the topic that we have lined up for our listeners today, which is the this adjustment that we're trying to do collectively to how to interact with each other socially. And there is no bigger adjustment than having to figure out how to do your wedding during these crazy times with the lockdown, and also baby showers. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
these are two of the events that are, in terms of emotional involvement and commitment from people, these are up there, because you bring in a baby to this world and also getting married. These are seminal events, and people now have to figure out a way to do them without having all of those that they care about around them. So we have to find a way to connect. And so what has come about as a result of us trying to connect is these drive-by baby showers, which I started
Mm-hmm.
hearing about a few weeks ago, I think from you actually, and then also Zoom weddings. And I know that you participated in a Zoom wedding this weekend, and then I also went to a drive-by baby shower. So I think the subject is apropos um, to the conversation that we're having about connectivity and everything. So I think it fits in well with this discussion. So why don't we talk a bit about that?
Let's do it. And I think for me, I think my sister-in-law's baby shower was kind of like that first experience with it. And I had seen other people in my Instagram feed post pictures and sort of share
Mm-hmm.
their drive-through baby shower, and I was like, this is interesting. Every once in a while, I like to stop and think about, what, like right now, everybody has to wear a mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like things are so different in ways that we perhaps a lot of us didn't expect. So, but it's interesting because of both uh, the drive-through baby shower and the wedding. You still need a small group of people to help you put things together. And I think the wedding that I participated in yesterday was an actual wedding, and then they just provided the Zoom connectivity, realizing that a lot of the people that would have been there couldn't fly because of the virus.
So this wasn't somebody getting married in their apartment or in some place that they're it's just them. This was an actual wedding with a venue somewhere.
No,
And
actually, they got married at their house, so
okay,
maybe
so it
that's
was at
what.
their house.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a very
Selective guest list.
selective guest list and very, I guess, homemade wedding.
Okay. Just one thing, Eduardo, that I just need to say, because I'm sure you might be able to hear the background music. That's my wife listening to Alicia Villarreal. And when she
Wow, she's
starts
still.
listening to that woman, there's nothing that I can do about it. So that's
Wow,
that's how she gets in the zone.
that's interesting. I hadn't heard that name in a while.
Yeah, she
Whatever
loves
happened to Alicia Villarreal?
what she did. You remember she was with Grupo Limite in the late
Uh,
90s, and then she went solo and she started doing a lot of mariachi songs in the vein of Paquita la del Barrio
mhm.
and Jenny Rivera, these type of songs that are empowering to women, right? That
Mm.
tell stories from a woman's point of view. So she likes those. She likes those songs, and when she gets started on those, I crawl away somewhere and I just go and do my little thing, and I let her.
You let her be. That's funny.
So if you hear it in the background, just know very little I can do about it, and I can't relocate to somewhere else.
It's part
I
of
don't.
it's part of the reality of having to do your podcast from home.
Yeah, exactly. So going back to so you went to the Zoom wedding, and I went to the drive-by baby shower, and I still there's so many formalities that we have with social interactions that these events, one way or another, end up being weird or even uncomfortable at times. Because
Hmm.
look, it's hard enough for me sometimes to understand what the formalities are around people. I often, well, when I was younger, I used to get into trouble a lot because I didn't know how to filter everything that I said. And then as I got older, I realized, yeah, you probably shouldn't just say everything that comes into your head, even if you think it's the truth, or even if you think that people need to hear it, because it's kind of shitty to just say it. If you have something to say to someone, well, at least say it to them in private, one on one. Don't say it in public. So I've had to learn how to deal with social interactions and how to behave. So this drive-by baby shower, right? So I get invited to one, and I saw the invite yesterday, so I decided to go because it's one of my good friends from high school, and she's having her first baby girl. So I thought, hey, let's go and let's support her. Let's show her that we care.
This
So,
is special.
yeah, this is special. So I'm thinking this is gonna be weird. We're gonna drive by, and what are we gonna do? Are we gonna hand a gift to someone from the car window? And are they gonna have different stations like around the block? How are they gonna manage all this, right? And then I start seeing in the invite that there's gonna be booths set up for pictures, and then there's gonna be goodie bags that are gonna be set up in another area. So I was like, well, that's not a drive by. How am I? That sounds like we're gonna get off and walk. So I'm trying to understand: is this a walk by baby shower or a drive by baby shower? Because there's a huge difference. Maybe there is such a thing as a walk by baby shower where you go through the stations, then you say hi and you give the gift. Well, anyway, we end up getting there, and it's kind of weird because, well, we park. Because I was like, well, do we drive by or do we park? So, well, let's just park and let's go and let's see what happens. So we're kind of, you would normally go to the back of the house, right? And or if you know the houses that have the baby showers because they have the balloons, and
Yep.
it's a festive atmosphere around the house. So you know what house has the party. You usually just walk to the back. But this time I told my wife, well, let's just wait in the front. Let's wait for somebody to come out, and then we can ask them what the rules of engagement are. I need to understand what these rules are because I don't know. And
Because they
then,
weren't provided beforehand either.
well, there were some on the Facebook page, but I feel like there's still so much that it's kind of hard to explain, or you have to really be there to understand how it's going to work. So we walk to the back and there's a ton of people there. So I was like, this is a baby shower. There's nothing drive-by about this. There's nothing not even walk-through about this. Everyone's just hanging around. But then from talking to you just now, and you were telling me how in the Zoom wedding, there's always a small group of people that they call in to help set up.
Hmm.
And now I'm thinking, well, was I supposed to drive by? And then the people that were there were only supposed to be close family members, and did I just like end up walking in, and then they felt weird and awkward about telling me, oh, no, you can't be here because you're not like exclusively from the small family, from the small group of family members that are supposed to be back here, and then all of a sudden we're right there and we're making people uncomfortable. So weird, man. Like all these questions.
So that's interesting because the one that we had for my sister-in-law was that the family helped decorate and set up a little table outside and a place for them to sit, and then they did lunch boxes, and then people were supposed to drive through, and I think most people did this. They drove, they stopped by, they talked with them, they handed them the gift or the card, and then we gave them the lunch box, and they took a picture of them, but within staying within the car, and then they drove off. So that was the way that it worked at the one that I participated. I know that I've seen others where people, particularly if you live in a cul-de-sac, you can have more cars, and or they can do a parade at the same time. So to your point, it does take a lot of more organization and coordination. But I'm wondering what kind of reaction, what did they tell you once they saw you guys in the backyard?
Well, they're not gonna say anything because most people, they're not accustomed to doing that. It's too uncomfortable for people to. This is a new situation for them, right? And
Yeah,
so
but so we're living through a pandemic, so you couldn't say, oh, hey, actually,
no, but it's
just give me your gift and go get out of here.
no, but see, people don't do that. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like I would do that, but then I get in trouble for doing stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like I would tell someone if it's supposed to be exclusively drive by, I would say, hey, drive by only. Sorry, I hope you understand. So I wouldn't say it in a mean way, but I would just explain what the rules are.
Hmm.
But people don't do that, and that's why I'm telling you, all of these social engagements that people try to organize, I think at some point or another they end up falling apart because we're not comfortable breaking out of the formalities that have already been ingrained into us, and the formality about not saying something that could potentially upset somebody else. Because
Mm-hmm.
at that point, you don't know how the person's going to take it. Like somebody comes to your house, they get off their car, they walk to the backyard, they're already there. They're with their wife, they're with their kid, they have a gift. Maybe the wife says, "Oh my God, like there's food, I'm so hungry." And then you're going to come out along and say, "Sorry, guys, you need to go back to your car. This isn't, we apologize if we didn't communicate correctly. We should have, but you're not supposed to get out of your car." And obviously it says drive by, but then it also says goodie station and picture booth. So that's already
Yeah.
sending
Mixed
mixed
messages.
messages, right? So I did wait outside for a while to see if I could see someone to get the rules explained to me. But I saw a whole bunch of people in the backyard, so I thought, okay, well, let's just walk in and we'll talk to someone. And if I actually was thinking, if it's not that type of baby shower, then we can just come back. And so, but then once we got in there, they're even taking pictures. And the photographer, the one that was in charge of taking all the pictures, she asked us to stand next to her, and we're all wearing our masks. So, but she asked us to stand next to her, and to my pregnant friend, and then take pictures, which is kind of
Yeah.
weird taking pictures with the mask on, right? Because they can't.
Mm-hmm.
All they can see is you
And you
squinting.
still smile. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to squint really hard so they can see that you really are smiling. And then and then she's telling us get closer to each other, and
Oh my
I
God.
was like, no, I'm not, because it's not even. I'm not even that concerned about me, because I know I'm healthy enough that I think I'll be okay. But I was concerned about the my pregnant friend, that
Of
she doesn't
course.
want us to be close. But she seemed totally cool with it. But see, I don't know if she was okay with it, or at that point she just didn't know how to express herself and say I'm not comfortable with any of this. So look, I'm telling you, these things are a mess, because I think this is what ends up happening. They probably had a plan for this to be a drive-by baby shower, and maybe they even had they were gonna have some picture station somewhere, but something that you could drive by, and if you wanted to take a picture, you could probably get off, go to the booth, take a picture, and then get back into your car and then leave. So that's probably
Mm-hmm.
how they had it planned out in their head. But
Well,
then
they
once,
should have said something up outside, and it sounds like they didn't. So
yeah, so it's weird, right? So that's why I'm telling you that I don't know how people are managing these drive-by events, because inevitably, especially if you say, okay, it's going to be drive-by, but it's going to be drive-by for all these people except our close family members. If somebody's driving by and they see people, and they don't know that it's just family, right? If
yeah.
that hasn't been made specifically clear to them, they might get off and join you. And at that point, do you tell them, no, 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 it's just family? So,
Yeah, and I also think a lot of it comes out of the different ways that family members can approach it. And it can even be the couple themselves, right? Like maybe the wife says, you know what, I don't feel comfortable. This should be a socially distanced or just drive by situation. And maybe the husband is like, oh no, we can, we just have a small group of people.
mm-hmm,
We still have your our close family, your sisters here, and maybe that because there's these different visions and ideas and different perceptions of what the risk is or it's not, that I think that's why you end up with a um a situation where perhaps lines are crossed and things are done that shouldn't have been done. So it sounds like to me that one of the important things that people need to keep in mind is just have a plan and stick to that plan and make sure that whoever is helping you organize and execute that baby shower or that wedding, that they know what the rules are going to be.
yeah, I think that in general, people are not very good at assessing risk at the
Yeah,
moment.
particularly with something that's at a space is not risky, right? Because unless that person is coughing up a lung, like it's you don't know if that person is positive or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like something you can like evaluate right away.
Yeah, I think you're probably better off assessing the risk when you're planning it. That's when people are
Hmm.
good at assessing it. But once the event's happening, and once all these like rules that you think you were going to be followed, once they start breaking down, it's probably harder to assess just the risk at that point because you're seeing people, you're feeling okay, you don't see anyone coughing. You probably think to yourself, I think we'll be okay. I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's some fear, but again, it's just I think people not being able to really express how they feel
Mm-hmm.
for the fear of making somebody else uncomfortable. I think that gets in the way a lot, and I've seen that in a lot of places. I've seen gatherings all around LA, and people don't respect the it has to be 6 feet of distance, and people don't respect that. I went to the one of the piers, was it Redondo Beach,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a fish restaurant there, and the line was huge, and everyone was literally next to each other. Like they
Wow.
weren't respected. They all had masks, but so it's people are not gonna do a lot of these. So I wonder. At some point, I think we'll probably figure something out. But right now, it feels very experimental. People are trying to figure out what's what they can do and what they can't, and maybe what they can get away with. But I bet you if there's like a breakout because of a baby shower and a whole bunch of people get sick, then they'll even start reassessing these drive-by baby showers or walk-by, or maybe they'll be more strict. Maybe they'll actually pull out the tape, right? Or and then put actual segment areas where people can walk and say, okay, this is how you enter, the way that the stores do it with the arrows, and say
Mm-hmm.
this is how you enter, and this is how the traffic is supposed to flow through the store, and then people stay confined to the if you put tape, you can put it on both sides, and you can create a walkway, and just people stay confined to that. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
it.
but I think what you're saying is probably one of the reasons why we've seen a rise in the cases in LA County, and I think it does have to do with those gatherings of family coming together, maybe not absorbing those measures. So I think that's one of the unfortunate reasons why here in LA specifically, and why a lot of the areas, a lot of the Latino areas like Southeast LA, where there's a lot more people. I mean, so in some ways, people don't have the option to social distance or self quarantine, where you're having a lot of the rise in cases.
And what's interesting to me is that the friends that I saw at the baby shower are the friends that will post articles on Facebook about how people should take this seriously
Hmm.
and how you should be serious about wearing masks and social distancing. And I see that and I think of them as, oh, okay, they're serious about this. They're not joking around. And I'm not as concerned about getting infected. I don't want to come in contact with it and then pass it on to someone else. So in that sense,
Hmm.
I would quarantine and I would take all the necessary steps. But I'm not as worried about catching it. Just me personally. But then when I go to these events, I'm usually the one that's telling other people like, wait a minute, aren't we supposed to keep 6 feet apart? Aren't we supposed to not be doing this? And then the people that were
Why
sharing
you're
the
in my
articles,
face? Why you're in my face?
yeah, and because I am a little more comfortable just speaking my mind to people. I do end up telling them these things. I've had people from work when the guidelines were released. I've had people that were still shaking hands when they would meet each other, and it was a weird situation in one case because we had a new president that came into our company, and he came in during this whole pandemic, and we were going to meet him, and this guy is shaking hands with everyone. And this is where I tell you that that pressure comes in of the formalities. Because what do you do? The president is
Yes.
shaking hands, but you also know you're not supposed to. So I saw everyone else shakes hands with them, and then he gets to me, and I tell him, "We're not supposed to be shaking hands, aren't we?" So I can't. Sometimes I can't. I don't really say it directly to people because I know that that may get me in trouble. So I try to say it as a joke. It's like, hey, I thought we weren't supposed to come in contact with each other. Like say it in a very passive way that maybe I'm trying to joke. But then he said, oh yeah yeah. So then he gave me like an elbow bump.
Hmm.
But he had already shaken five other people's hands. And so the same thing yesterday when we're at the baby shower and we're keeping our distance from other people, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you guys want to take a picture? Okay, sure. So I go and I stand next to her and I'm keeping some distance. It's not 6 feet at that point because you can't fit
Yeah,
like
it's probably
four.
three,
Yeah, you can't
if
fit
that.
4 people into a picture. But I'm still keeping a comfortable distance where I feel like, okay, she'll feel comfortable and I'm wearing the mask. But then the photographer is saying, get closer to each other. And everyone's kind of giggling and laughing. And I said, no. Like, you want us to, like, aren't we supposed to not get close to each other? What's going on here? And then, even then, it still felt like I was the odd one out that was
Yeah,
right. So I'm telling you, just, and again, I would be the one on Facebook that would probably be called out for not taking it too seriously. Whereas all of the other friends are the ones that are sharing the articles and doing all these things. But when it comes to the moment where you actually have to act on what you're saying, like, I don't see many people actually following through with it. And the guy that doesn't seem to take it that seriously, I'm the one that tells people, and I'm not telling people because I'm concerned about it as much. I'm just telling people to point out the inconsistency between what
yeah.
they say and what they do.
No, yeah, it's a good point. It's interesting because I do think that since we're such social creatures, that once we're in that environment, our default is to get along with people and not, and be part of that experience. So I think that yeah, to your point, I think this is still, well, it's already, you can see how it's already changing a lot of aspects of our behavior. It still hasn't been long enough, and it's also, it's difficult to change years of just going to a baby shower and having a good time, saying hello,
Mm-hmm.
kissing, hugging people, drinking, and kind of having a good time with folks. And I think the other factor is that people haven't done it in a while because of the quarantine, so they're even more like, they even crave that human contact even more, which I think also has something to do with people kind of letting their inhibitions um, go, as they kind of get more comfortable and sort of hope for the best, right? Or like just be okay. Hopefully, I won't get it, or I won't give it to somebody.
You know what? What also might be going on, and I agree with everything you said. And also, in addition to that, there might be a false sense of security based on familiarity. Because
Yeah,
if you know the person, if you're good friends with them, you might put your guard down and say, "Oh, this is my friend Ro. This is my other friend Eduardo. Oh, they're okay." Because maybe in their mind they have a picture of what a sick person looks like,
yeah,
and a sick person is not a, maybe it's ageist, or maybe it's some type of discrimination right against a certain type of look. But if you look young and healthy, and you're friends with them, then they probably put their guard down and they think, oh, he should be fine, he's like family. So, but that's how people, like you said, that's why this thing is spreading, because there's all of these formalities and inhibitions that people have that allow them to really, when it comes down to it, to be able to be direct with people and say, no, these are the rules and please follow them. There are people like that. And when they do speak up, I never have a problem with that. I say, okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know. As long as
hmm
they don't say it in a bitchy way, as long as they don't say it in a condescending way, as long as it's neutral. They're just giving you information without sounding annoyed, or like they're agitated or frustrated, right? So that's more about the way the message is delivered sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. And I think there's also that trust. Like, well, if Eduardo was feeling sick, I'm sure he wouldn't be here.
Right.
And little did they know that Eduardo had a sore throat and a runny nose
Yeah.
before coming in here.
Yeah, and he
So
didn't
it's
say it because he didn't want to make people uncomfortable.
exactly because he wanted to be there because it was important, and he's a man of his word. Um, so yeah, so that's something. And then the interesting thing about shifting to the Zoom
Yeah.
wedding, I think what happens is kind of like now you have to deal with the fact that people are still learning the etiquette on being on a Zoom call or any other type
Yeah.
of other call, right? So like yesterday, we were we were watching our friend's wedding, and unfortunately, I think they had, a friend probably doing the setup of the camera or the laptop, whatever it was that they used.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, they didn't do a good job sort of monitoring what it looked like for the participants. But then you had a couple of participants who, for some reason, didn't put themselves on mute.
Oh.
So you had all this feedback and all these things. So it took a while for folks to kind of get with the program and make sure that they didn't interfere with with the ceremony. And I even learned that you can pin somebody's video so that way it doesn't get taken away when somebody else speaks on Zoom. So it's one of those things of still learning the how the technology works that helps us connect and help us at least be there virtually for a special moment like a wedding.
Yeah, and that's when you need a good tech person to set up your Zoom um, session, because there's a way to mute all of the participants.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's just like Zoom wedding setup 101, make sure that you set it so that anybody coming in is put on auto mute, and they have to unmute themselves. And maybe I don't know if Zoom supports this, but when somebody unmutes themselves, maybe there's a way to that it automatically mutes them again after a time of inactivity, or there's no sound coming from that microphone. But yeah, and also having somebody, I suppose if you're gonna have a wedding, you need to have somebody constantly monitoring that, and it sounds like they weren't doing that yesterday.
Yeah, I think they were just, they were participating, they were kind of keeping an eye on it, but I think they just kind of got lost.
You could literally put your 8-year-old nephew or your 8-year-old cousin to do that. Say, hey, mijito, you're gonna watch from far away, and if you hear it getting too rowdy and all these other things, then just mute people, right?
Yeah,
That's just, and that's again, this is people already have enough things to worry about for their wedding with the wedding
exactly.
planning, and this is just one other thing that they haven't fully fleshed out yet.
Yeah,
But what was the overall experience like? Did you feel like you were there? Did it feel awkward? Were people talking over each other? Like, how was it?
no, I think for the most part it was nice because it was almost like watching the video as it was happening. So it was nice to see the bride walk in, look stunning. I mean, the groom looked really great too, and I think it was nice. It did feel like we were part of it, part of the like we were there almost 3,000 miles away, and so I think it was beautiful to at least see those things. And they also abbreviated the schedule, so they did obviously the ceremony part of it, then they did a little choreographed dance, and then they did some speeches from those in
Mm-hmm.
the wedding party,
Mm-hmm.
and that was nice. It was good to see. And then they had a little bit of music going on, and then they did a group dance, and that was it, at least for the Zoom portion of the wedding. So yeah, so it was good. I think it was a good way for to include um, the many people who would have loved to have been there but couldn't make the trip. So yeah, so it was an interesting, and it's funny because I was taking pictures of my laptop of the scenes, right, of the friends that I see, and then obviously of them. So it's almost kind of like the full effect of being in a wedding, behaving the same way, but only doing it from the comfort of your home.
But what was your process like? Did you go through the same process of getting ready, maybe enjoying a few beers beforehand, getting dressed up, or did you just,
Oh no.
dress up the top part and then the bottom was shorts and and sandals?
I watched the Barcelona Napoli game, so I still had my Barcelona jersey and shorts. So I was just very, I was not very wedding ready.
But
But it's funny
aren't
because we
aren't that
didn't
like,
turn on the camera.
isn't that part of the, okay, so your camera wasn't on.
No, it wasn't on.
But isn't that the whole point, that your camera should be on so that they can also see you?
It could be, but I don't think they could see us since they were so far away. So it was more about seeing them. And then, at the end, towards the end, they stopped by and said hello. But it's not like they stayed to have a conversation with everybody on the Zoom party.
So did they at least talk to you guys in the beginning though? Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Blah blah blah. You know.
They talked to us at the end.
At the end, really? That's so weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe okay, let's read this page then, because maybe this couple just didn't do things correctly, because that's not what in my mind that's not how it should be set up at all. Maybe before this article, I can tell you how I think it should work. First of all, if someone's gonna set this up for you, there needs to be a projector somewhere or a big screen TV where they can see everyone else that's watching them, so they can
Mm-hmm.
get reactions. And there's obviously an audio person, and there absolutely needs to be a dress code so that everyone that's participating through Zoom is dressed up, so they can look nice, so you can actually feel like you're doing it is just remotely. I mean, those would
Mm-hmm.
be like some bare minimum requirements that I would have expected from all of these Zoom weddings.
Yeah, I think maybe some of them would have gone through more through some more those guidelines and dress code and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think it would be kind of hard to enforce. I think if you knew that, oh yes, we're gonna have everybody projected on the screen that we and other people who are with us can see you, I think obviously that would have been okay. So I need to put some pants on and and a nice shirt
You don't
so
well,
that
you
we
don't have to
can.
see the full. It wouldn't have to capture your whole body. But
Mhm.
if you're sitting there and they're seeing you on the other side, then if you're dressed up nicely and they can see that. And I was gonna ask you earlier, like, did the groom, did they reach out to you guys and say, hey, I mean, obviously this is going a little bit too far, but if you really want to have the whole experience of the wedding, as opposed to just having somebody see you on video, if you want to have the whole experience, or okay, well, let me take a step back. Let's assume that I'm planning my Zoom wedding, right? And
Mhm.
and I, based on what I know about weddings, which I really enjoy, because I think it's such a great time to let loose, to have a few beers beforehand, to mingle, and usually if it's open bar, then even better. But that's what makes the wedding so special, at least for guests. That you're
Yeah.
there, you're sharing with friends, you're seeing a lot of friends that you haven't seen before, you're mingling. So what I would have done is, considering that it's a Zoom wedding, it's still, I don't know how many people um, got invited, but assuming that it's still a reasonable number of people, send some beer to the people that are joining your Zoom wedding, so you can have a toast with them, a few beers before everything starts. Or if you're not gonna, fine, if you're not gonna pay for their beer because it's too many, then just say, okay, as part of the requirement, you guys need a 6 pack or like
Yeah.
a glass of wine or something. And before any of this like ceremony and before any of this starts, we're gonna have just like a happy hour for 15 minutes, and we're just gonna mingle, and you're gonna mingle with them. We're gonna have a few drinks, and
Yeah.
then you start with the other stuff. That's I'm sure there's some that might be doing it that way, but I was curious to see if yours. It doesn't sound like yours did any of this. I mean, if you're
No,
watching the
so
Barcelona game in your jersey, then they didn't really give you guys any rules or any dress code.
yeah, so I think, and it's funny because I think as it related to the in-person experience, and even before when we're planning to be in the in-person experience, they were the type of couple that was very thorough and just like, and you have to do X, Y, Z. This is how it's gonna go. So I think in their defense, I think that they were really more focused on the actual on their small wedding that it
Mm-hmm.
had to now make sure that to the extent possible was complying with social distancing and all those things versus making the Zoom incorporating the Zoom into the wedding. So yes, I think to your point, there's ways that you can make it feel so that people are are part of the ceremony from Zoom. But I think this was more like, oh, I know, sorry you can't make it. We're gonna give you the opportunity to at least witness it via this platform. But I think that was it. So I don't think it was the intent for them to make it like a huge part of their wedding.
Yeah. No, I think that would, at least that's something that I would care about, because I would care about sharing the moment with family and friends.
Hmm.
And I would rather postpone the wedding if that's the case. So obviously that's just me. We would end up doing whatever my wife wants at the end, because I'm just telling you, if I had planned this, and My preference would have been, well, if we can't even do these small things to get everyone feeling engaged and share a drink with like Eduardo and have like a 15-30 minute happy hour where I just go and chat and talk to all my buddies on Zoom before the ceremony actually happens. And I said, let's just postpone it. We'll wait
Hmm.
another year or two. But again, obviously, that's just me. You have to negotiate and figure out what your your other half wants to do.
Very true.
And it sounds like also that there's going to be a new type of job out here for these wedding planners to be Zoom wedding planners. And I bet if this lasts long enough, you'll start seeing more of that. You'll start seeing professional planners that will help people put together a more enjoyable experience through Zoom
Hmm.
than letting somebody sit through on their Barcelona jersey and not talking to them at all until the end of the wedding. That seems kind of weird. Hey, but that's just my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Again,
So for all our listeners who are planning of doing anything, now you get in the some tips of what to do and what not to do.
yeah. Is the whole video thing is such a new thing to a lot of people also. So maybe they just feel uncomfortable doing that. That could be a thing too. People get camera shy.
Yeah, and it's also, I think they're one of the first, or at least they're the first wedding I know, that they had it, that they had the Zoom option. So I think it's also in some ways they're pioneers, and then like anything, I think there will be people like you who would incorporate these other elements that make it even a more important part of the wedding. And maybe if the best man or the maid of honor wouldn't have made it and had to do things on Zoom, maybe that would have been an incentive for them to really focus on the Zoom part of the wedding. But yeah, so again, and I think the having gone to many weddings, having had my own weddings, you realize that weddings, like, you do your best to plan and anticipate and have people to help you execute the day of. And then there's things that, once, to your earlier comment, once the party gets going, it
Hmm.
just kind of has a life of its own, and it's going to evolve. And some people are going to have a great time. Some people are going to have some unfortunate, either a fight or get too drunk, or something's going to happen. But that's kind of what makes the wedding memorable, right? I
Yeah.
remember that was one of the best things we did afterwards, after the wedding was done. Just like, we bumped into some friends and just kind of like reminiscing on everything that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that's the fun stuff. You could also they could in the future you might start seeing MCs. You hire someone to be there, um, kind of talking and engaging the audience at the same time, making commentary about what's going on in the wedding itself, right?
Hmm.
And then you can even set up multiple. I don't know if Zoom supports this, but allow multiple feeds into the main video. So you can have the main conferencing video, but you could have other cameras that will get different angles. Now, if you have an MC, the MC could switch between the different cameras, and then just kind of just do commentary on the wedding. And then if it's a good MC, maybe play a little bit of music, maybe get the audience a little bit engaged too, something like that. There's so much. I suppose it's probably not going to get to that point because if this lockdown is over within the next 6 months to a year, then there's just not enough time for that to develop. But I do think as our world goes more and more virtual, we might start this might start becoming more sophisticated. This
Hmm.
type of weddings, because you can see in the future if someone's getting married abroad and you can't make it, if the technology is already so integrated into our experiences that it's super easy to do all these things, then you could just see somebody plugging in virtually, having different feeds of the wedding, and then having somebody there talking to you and giving you updates and talking about making commentary on the stuff that's happening, on the food, on the best man speak, all of that stuff. There's so much. I think I'm just getting a little carried away with this.
I think you are, and I'm just seeing dollar signs as you keep talking. I'm like, do we want to create a great experience for the people at the wedding, or for people who are watching it on Zoom?
Well, yeah, but I'm not saying just create it for them. I mean, there has to be a way to also get the groom and the bride engaged also. It can't just be them doing their whole ceremony for 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours without engaging with everyone else. There has to be a way to change the engagement so that there's more back and forth.
Yeah.
And that would be part of the overall experience, right? So that's where the different feeds would come in, the projector. Yeah. This is how I get when I talk about UFOs, by the way.
Well,
Yeah.
hey, maybe you have a business concept that you can work on.
Maybe.
Herrero, the wedding Zoom wedding planner.
By the way, those pictures that the government released, they better not be grainy pictures. That's all we have. Remember, there's a really funny comedian. He unfortunately he passed away. Mitch Hepburn. All of his jokes were one-liners, and one of the best ones to this day that I still get a chuckle out of is the problem with Bigfoot is that maybe he's just a grainy dude.
A grainy dude.
That's why all the pictures of him are super grainy. It's not the cameras. It's just that Bigfoot is grainy. So all of these. Anyway, I won't get into the topic of UFOs. We'll say that for later. But I'm hoping that whatever pictures you said they just released are not super grainy. That look like they were taking with a still of a video from a camcorder in the 80s or a camera in the 80s. That's super grainy and the object is far away where it might as well be something else that right because all you see is like the silhouette of it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I think that wraps it up. Any closing thoughts on this?
No, I think that to those folks who are going through these special milestones, life milestones, I think hang in there. I think that in some ways this will add to how they remember and experience these important milestones, whether it's having a baby or getting
Mm-hmm.
married. And we know that there is going to be, and maybe we can check what the statistics are so far, but I know that there's probably been an increase in the number of babies that have been that are getting made right now because
Mm-hmm.
everybody's sort of spending time together.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then obviously there's people who are gonna wait till next year or the year after to do their thing. But uh, whatever you do, however you do it, please try to be safe and think of the Herrero guest. Have the Herrero guest in mind as you think about how everything's gonna work out, so that way you can make sure that everybody knows what they need to do and how they need to do it.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks again for a good talk. We will pick it up again next week. You want to close us off with our social media interaction / engagement?
Of course. So Brown Perspective is where you can find us. We feature our YouTube channel when we have these conversations, so you can see some of the stories that we've already done. We are on Instagram as well and on Twitter. So feel free to follow us and let us know what you think about this episode or any of the other episodes that we've done. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you stay healthy and have a good week.
Mucho, mucho amor. Nos vemos.